I am going to interview 3 people to see what the average person knows just off the cuff about their government. What are the 3 branches of government?
Oh geez, it's a test. Okay, so we have judicial, executive, and the one that makes the laws, legislative.
The 3 branches of government are going to be the judicial, legislative, and executive branches.
There is the legislative, the judicial, and you gotta think about the last one. Executive.
Okay, my 3 men on the street got that one right. The executive, legislative, and judicial branches make up the government. The Constitution provided a separation of powers. The legislative branch of government, also called Congress, is made up of the House of Representatives and the Senate, and they have the power to make laws. The executive branch, which is made up of the president and the vice president and the cabinet, carries out or executes the laws. And the judicial branch, which is made up of the Supreme Court and other federal courts, interprets the law. Okay, what does each branch do?
Legislative creates the law, executive upholds the law, and obviously executes it, and then the judicial decides in the law in court. Is that right? More or less?
So the judicial branch, they are checks and balances for the other 2 branches. So they keep their powers in control of what they can and can't do. The legislative creates the laws, and the executive upholds the laws.
Let's see. The legislative makes the laws. The judicial enforces the laws. Did I get that right? It's been a long time. I'm getting old. And the executive makes a mess for everyone.
The Constitution of the United States divides the federal government into 3 branches to make sure no individual or group has too much power. The 3 branches have separate but equal power, helping to ensure that we cannot descend into tyranny, ruled by a dictator or a king. The citizens of the United States have the right to vote for their president, and the citizens of each state have the right to send representatives and senators from their state to Congress, ensuring representation in government. The judicial branch of the federal government is made up of appointed members nominated by the president and approved by the Senate. The fact that this branch is appointed and not elected is purposeful and helps with the separation of powers. Because they do not have to worry about re-election, they do not need to make decisions based upon the pressure of public opinion. The ability of each branch to respond to the actions of the other branches is called the system of checks and balances. The president can veto legislation created by Congress and nominates heads of federal agencies. Congress confirms or rejects the president's nominees and can remove the president from office in exceptional circumstances. The justices of the Supreme Court, who can overturn unconstitutional laws, are nominated by the president and confirmed by the Senate. Democrats and Republicans are the major parties. Can you name a 3rd party?
Libertarian.
Okay.
Well, there's a Tea Party, just a plain independent. Quite a few different. Is that good enough?
Yeah.
I would say the Whigs, but I don't know if they're actually still around.
Political parties were not something originally envisioned by the framers of the Constitution, and President Washington warned against them. The rivalry between Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson during Washington's presidency set the course for the 2-party system in American politics. Alexander Hamilton was the leader of the Federalists, which believed in a powerful central government, and Thomas Jefferson was the leader of the Anti-Federalists, also known as the Democratic Republicans, which believed in giving more power to the individual states and their legislatures. The 2 major parties in the U.S. today are the Republicans and the Democrats. 3rd-party candidates rarely win elections in American campaigns. They can shift national attention to particular issues And they also take votes away from major political party candidates and can influence the outcome of elections. What is the basic process by which a bill becomes a law?
So a bill becomes a law by, first, somebody has to draft the bill, and then they have to send it to, I believe it's a cabinet of some sort that they have to approve or deny the law, or it goes through a, like they have to revise it and make sure that it's all correct and stuff, and then they send it to the Senate. The Senate can either approve, deny, or send it back for revision. And then after that, they send it to the president, and the president will either veto or pass it, and then it goes to the House for another check, and they either pass or deny it.
What is the basic process by which a bill becomes a law?
Basic process. Well, I know it has to be introduced somewhere. I don't know if that's in the House or the Senate. I lose track of all that too. Has to be voted on. Eventually get signed into law. That's about as much as I can remember.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
That was great.
That's a good question. So, a bill is put into the Senate or House, voted upon by both parties, and then it's either passed. So I'm going to go Senate. I think it's in the Senate, right? Yep, I'm going to say Senate. It's in the Senate. Right? No? Maybe?
I'm not going to tell you.
It's basically brought to the Senate, they vote on it, and if, it's voted one way or another, it goes through.
So only the Senate.
And the House, does the same thing in the House.
Oh, so it has to go through both the Senate and the
Yes, I
House.
believe so.
Okay.
But,
And then it becomes a law?
yes? No?
Okay, you can stop.
How a bill becomes a law is not a simple process as depicted by the infographic I just showed. But it shouldn't be easy to enact a new law. That is one of the checks and balances our founding fathers instituted to protect our freedoms. I will explain the process as simply as possible. Any member of Congress can introduce a bill, and then it is assigned a number. If it fails, it can only be reintroduced in the next legislative session. It is referred to a committee or subcommittee. First, research is done on the bill, and it is modified. Riders and amendments can be added to a bill. They may hold hearings and invite members of the public or interest groups to speak. The committee or subcommittee then votes on whether it is voted out of committee and reported to the House or Senate floor. It takes a majority of committee members to vote it out on the floor. Most bills die in committee. If the bill didn't die in committee and it does make it out onto the floor, it is open to debate. A filibuster, an action such as a prolonged speech, can be instituted to delay or block the progress of a bill. It can be stopped by cloture, which is a 2/3 vote to end debate and bring the bill to vote. If the House or Senate approves the bill, then it has to go through the other legislative body, and the same process has to be completed to pass it. If the other legislative body also passes it, there will be 2 separate forms of the bill, one that the Senate approved and one that the House approved. So a special conference committee is put together with key players from both legislative bodies, and they will iron the differences out. If the differences aren't ironed out, the bill dies. If they are, they create a third hybrid version of the bill. The bill goes to the president for his signature. If he doesn't like the bill, he can then veto the bill. It could go back to Congress, and a 2/3 majority of both houses of Congress can override the veto, but that's a very unlikely scenario. So we learned a lot from the interviewees. They really actually knew quite a bit about their government. That was pretty impressive. And along the way, I learned a lot, and I understand much better now how a bill passes and really appreciate the work our founding fathers did to separate powers and make it really hard to pass a bill. So really cool stuff. Hope you enjoyed it.